Hi everyone and welcome back to National League Lowdown with me, Dan. As you can see, we've got a full panel tonight. I'm joined by Louis. How are you, mate? You okay?
Yeah, all good, thanks, Dan. Looking forward to cracking on, chatting about Halifax and some cracking FA Cup ties this weekend.
Yeah, definitely, mate, definitely. And Mark, as always, how are you, mate? You okay?
Aloha, everybody. Yes, very pleased after Mac's win against South Shields in the league. Their unbeaten run coming to an end, but we will be talking about South Shields and much more later on.
Yeah, definitely. And tonight we are joined by Luke, Halifax supporter, podcaster. How are you, mate? You okay?
Yeah, I'm good. Just saying thanks for the invite once again for inviting me on. And I'm looking forward to talking about FA Cup and National League.
Yeah, it's good to have you with us, mate. Obviously, I've seen some of your podcasts as well. I know we've spoken on social media and stuff before. Love your stuff, mate. So keep up the great work. But yeah, we'll start with obviously Halifax talk, which makes sense. So obviously, you had a bit of a tricky start to the season. I think when I looked, I think it was 1 win in 5 to start. But then you've went on an absolutely incredible run, which included 6 wins in a row in all competitions. How have you seen it so far, mate?
I think I've been impressed as usual with Halifax. I think if you actually look over the last couple of years, since probably Pete Wild came in, which were about 5 years ago now, we've always overachieved. And I think a lot of people will often, and I think rightly so, will write us off before a ball is kicked. Because of the budget that we've got, a lot of people will probably expect Halifax to be, lower mid-table, just looking to survive, to be honest. But, over the past 5 or 6 years, every season we've been competing towards the top in the playoffs, and now it's kind of a given, I suppose, as for us as supporters, although we've got such a low budget, that we're kind of demanding a playoff push every single season, because I think in 4 of the past 5 years we've been in the playoffs, and the other year was actually a case of us winning the FA Trophy. So what's been pleasing as a Halifax fan is every year we've always been competing for something, and I think a lot of people will forget the actual budget that we have. I think at the start of the season, new management, I think a lot of people were a little bit nervous considering that Millington had just left, who, although probably didn't play the most attractive brand of football, was very effective considering he knew how to get the best out of the squad with a low budget. And then bringing in someone who's not very familiar with the division, Adam Lakeland, I thought it was always going to take time. I think if we have to remember when Millington firstly came in, it took a bit of time for us to get going. And towards the end, we're back-to-back playoff campaigns. And coming on to Adam Lakeland, I thought it was going to take time. He's brought in his own players, as every season. We've lost a few key players in the summer. And to be honest, I wasn't too surprised with the poor start, but I wasn't overly concerned either.
Yeah, I know we spoke on here. Obviously, I think it was first game of the season. You struggled. You got beat, well beaten. And I remember I predicted you to get in the playoffs, in my preseason predictions. And I remember,
hopefully, anyway.
I mean, I'm always wrong, mate. So I hate to break that to you, but I'm always wrong. Just check our predictions league. But yeah, no. But like I say, when I seen it, I was like, oh, that's a bit of a turn up. But like you say, changing manager, changing players could take time. And like I say, you seem to have found form. And I've just got your form up here now. So 1 defeat in 11, which is absolutely incredible turnaround given the shaky start and everything. And I know Mark had a good question. Obviously, I know you're a fan of Adam Lakeland. You're a fan of the goalkeeper as well. We've had that discussion as well.
Yes.
You got your question for Luke?
Yes, it is solely about Adam Lakeland, because he was at Curzon Ashton, then Kings Lynn. What was the general feeling around the club? I mean, Chris Millington, an experienced head. What was the general feeling about Adam Lakeland coming in, thinking, well, he's only done it at National League North level, and he's still of what might be considered a young age? And how is it now? How has Lakeland managed to get everybody on board with what he's doing?
I think at first, for a lot of supporters, we were unaware of him coming from the lower divisions, but I often saw it as quite an exciting appointment. If you actually look at Adam Lakeland, he's been successful in every single club that he's been at. Kings Lynn, in terms of got them in the playoffs. Curzon Ashton did wonders there. He had a very good track record at being at clubs, particularly looking at Curzon Ashton, who have a low budget, and getting the best out of them and having them competing towards the top, which just fills that Halifax job perfectly, because we all know we've got a low budget, but there's that expectation there. And I suppose for me, I was quite excited. I think Millington leaving, it was quite a safe pair of hands with him. You knew every year you were going to be in and around the playoffs because of his football being effective. But if you actually look at watching it on the eye, it wasn't particularly easy to watch on the eye. We often struggled at home under him, considering, we were in the playoffs. I think, it was quite defensive-minded type of style. But as for me, as a fan like myself, I just looked at it like, this is the best we can ask for with the budget that we've got. We're not going to be playing, attractive football like maybe a York or a Forest Green, maybe not last season, but looking at Forest Green this season now. But when Lakeland came in, a lot of people said he plays quite an attractive brand of football. He's also very, he's defensively aware as well. I just felt it was an opportunity to kind of bring us on a step from being a side that, yes, is finishing in the playoffs every year, but is also playing a nice brand of football, which, as well as a lot of you will be aware, may attract more people to come down to the Share, because that's something, particularly in the last 3 or 4 years, our attendances have significantly dipped, which I do think is unfair considering that we've been in the playoffs. But I think a lot of people have blamed it, one of the reasons, on the style of football. And I think under Lakeland so far, the style, it's been very nice to watch, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I mean, what you say there, Luke, as well, we've got a phrase that I use quite a lot on here, which is value for money. Whether that's exciting games, exciting, football, and it does play a part. It plays a part in attendances. You see that at any club as well. If you're not getting results or you're not playing good football, them numbers will drop. I know this ties in quite nicely with a question Louis had for you. Louis?
Yeah, it's exactly on that point. It's on attendances. So 21-22, your average attendance was 2,130, and then this year so far it's 1,600, which was boosted quite a lot by York, the attendance at York game on Saturday, I think. And that's the 17th in the league, so it's below the likes of Forest Green, Eastleigh, Sutton, which, by my reckoning, Halifax are a bigger side than. Do you think that's a worry for the club? Does it affect your sort of standing in the sense of how you can move on, what you can bring in money-wise? Or do you think the club can do anything more to improve that?
There's a lot of reasons for the attendances, and even going back that far back, when we were getting 2,100 on, consistently, I felt like, there's an opportunity for us to grow here. I remember at the time we were all thinking, we need to get it up to 2,500, 3,000. I didn't expect 5 years down the line to be in a position now where it's a case of, at some weeks we're barely getting over 1,000 at home. If you actually look at our away attendances, they're pretty good, like overall, considering our home attendance that we do. So there's a strong core of a fan base there. But I think what's happened in recent years, there's a lot of reasons, is, a lot of people have been turned away. I think if you actually look at the facilities at the Share, for a home supporter, we've got a great stadium, but it's not much of a match day experience there. The crowd often comes in 5 minutes before kick-off because there's no before the game to build up. Like I'd have thought you'd probably look at Carlisle, for example. I reckon before the game, there'll be loads of things going on and around the ground. I reckon even Sutton probably now, there'll be things going on. Even going to Macclesfield, I'm sure Macclesfield with their new ownership and everything there, there'll be a proper family feel. I don't often see many families down the Share. It's usually just like fans who've been going for a long time or young lads going in groups. There's not much of a family feel to it because there's nothing attractive about that. I think streaming hasn't helped, although I can't really blame that fully because I think other sides, it hasn't affected them. I think it has actually affected Halifax fans because I think a lot of people now are sitting at home. In terms of it actually being a concern, I think it has to be a concern. I think our owner overall, he gets a lot of unnecessary stick, some of it potentially warranted off the field things in terms of, the facilities and the prices and everything like that. But he's always come out and said he wants the club to be self-sufficient, which means that he wants the club to be more or less fan-funded, and then he basically makes the big decisions in bringing in players, appointments. Now, if we were getting 2,000 and we were always known to have a low budget, and he wants it to be self-sufficient. If we're now getting 1,100 every week, imagine it now, like budget-wise, and how much we will be struggling. And if I'm being honest, I think that might have gone out the window, that self-sufficient statement that he said with the recent attendances. I think he's probably had to put his hand in his pocket more than he's wanted towards the end of the season to pay off, debt and things like that, for example.
Well,
yeah, go on, Mark, sorry.
Yeah, I was just saying about that. As you were going on about the self-sufficiency, we've had that at Macclesfield. We've now got a board of directors, some of which have got money the likes we've never seen before. But as it always is, do you think that later on, come January, the club might think, now hang on, we're just not making the money here? And do you have a little genuine fear that one of the top players, like Hamami, for example, could be sold just to solve that problem?
Well, we've seen it before. I think last season we lost Andrew Oluwabori just after January. We got a full strength squad back, and I was thinking, you know what, I've got a really good feeling about this season now. And then Andrew Oluwabori went to Exeter. But I don't think you can really stand in someone's way when a club's coming 2 leagues above. That wouldn't disappoint me, if I'm being honest. Obviously, I'd be a little bit upset, but I think you can't stand in a player's way like that. I don't think you can be disappointed with a club. I think the year before, Millie Ali, who's now at Luton, doing excellent things for them, he left in January. But what we always pride ourselves on, and I can't believe that we've been able to do it for so long, is we always find a replacement. And that's something that I've got to kind of have faith in the club, is if, let's say, Hamami, who will certainly be being watched at the moment with his numbers.
He's been brilliant.
If any of those left in Jan, I'd probably have faith in the club that they'll be able to find replacements.
Yeah, I mean, just what you said there, Luke, about obviously, when you go to the game and you just see like older heads and people that have been going for years. Brunton Park was like that for a long time. We got the new owners in. They've like absolutely worked wonders on the outside of the ground. There's fan zones, there's family events, there's fancy food vans, and there's all sorts goes on. And the attendance has went up purely because of that. When you think obviously the form Carlisle have been in the last couple of years, it's not because the football's been amazing. It's because the atmosphere, the day itself. Could that be something that Halifax could work on potentially, or do you think the owner's just kind of set in his ways?
If I'm being honest, I think he's set in his ways. I think there's more for him to be concerned about than thinking about that side of things. He's run the club for a very long time now, and I don't think he'll change his ways. He's not active on social media. There's no real way of fans talking to the owner. I think as well, it's actually changed now, but previously, we haven't owned the stadium. The council have. That's now changed hands to the rugby, who are moving in from Huddersfield, which is a completely different story. And I know he's actually going to have to upgrade the ground facilities himself, the Rugby League Huddersfield Giants owner, so it meets Super League standards, which I'm hoping will benefit us, because if he's having to up facilities, then I suppose you'd like to think that that'll be there for the football club as well, particularly considering that he's sharing with us. So I'm hoping from that perspective it may change. But you speak there about like fancy food vans, family events that are going on. That's something that I think Halifax fans have been asking for a very long time. And if I'm being honest, I just don't think I could see a change. I think if there was going to be one, it would have happened by now. The only kind of optimism I've got maybe in terms of that side of things is, like I've said, with the Giants owner now owning Shift, maybe he'll try to do things for the football club. But then again, he owns a rugby club. He doesn't have any affiliation with the football club. So why would he be bothered about us, if that makes sense?
It might work in your favour, though, because it's a joint venture. It's your ground. So he maybe doesn't have an interest in the club, but the stadium's his interest. He has to make it work. He has to, so I think that can only be a good thing in terms of improving facilities, improving the environment type thing. I think that could only be a good thing for you personally. Just before we go on to our FA Cup chat and things, I just wanted to ask you, obviously, your game's coming up. I've just got them up here on my screen here. Next 4 games, you've got Carlisle away, obviously, big game. And then you've got what I would class as winnable games. Hartlepool at home, Sutton away. Sorry, Louis. Solihull Moors at home. And, I think you look there, I think there's no reason you can't be getting, I'm hoping the first one you lose and then, you can do what you like with the others. But there's no reason you can't be getting 9 points out of them. Do you think you can sustain this really good form you've been in?
I think over the course of the season, I don't think there's any reason for us not to. I think we've had a lot of injuries. Cody Johnson, who's meant to be this big player that's coming into the side who's actually brought from Kings Lynn, was previously been at Stockport. He's been out injured. We've had a few other players, Florent Hotter, he was probably one of the star players last season. He's been out injured. And if we've got players like that coming on back over the course of the season, I think we will be fine. In terms of those 4 fixtures, though, they're quite tough games, to be honest. I think we're playing Carlisle United at the worst time we could. I think if we'd have played them a month ago, I'd be quite optimistic that, you know what, they've got Feeney out injured, the midfield's not particularly balanced well, they're very reliant on Regan Linney going forward. I'd have thought, you know what, we could actually do something at Carlisle. Whereas now, you've got a very solid defence, you've got your players coming back, you've brought reinforcements into the midfield that's more settled, and then you're not as reliant on the likes of Regan Linney because you've just brought Con Clark in, which gives you another option going forward. So I don't want to be negative, but I can't see us getting anything out of Carlisle away, if I'm being honest. And then you look at Sutton, a new manager. I know they lost against Wealdstone, but it feels a little bit more like it's attacking minded now under the new coach. And given time, I actually think they may be okay. I just think, would it have been better if they made that appointment in the summer? So he got his own, full summer, a bit more time himself. I think he's been thrown in at the deep end, Sutton own, the Sutton manager, I should say, if you look at it, considering their current position at the moment. But I don't think that'll be easy. And then Hartlepool themselves beat Solihull. Nicky Featherstone, I think there's that boost, isn't there, for them now with him, being kind of one of them in terms of that fans loving him and him loving the club like he has done with him being there for over a decade. And then even Solihull, you've got Chris Millington, whose previous Halifax manager will be wanting something to prove to the Halifax fans that weren't particularly fond of him for leaving. So for me, they're 4 very awkward fixtures, and I don't think we're playing the likes of Sutton, Hartlepool and Solihull at a very good time by that point, because they've all got new managers in and we often do see a boost. And yeah, that Carlisle game as well, I think will be a tough one. So I think there were trickier games than maybe you'll look when you first look at the 4 fixtures. But of course, with the way we're playing, you'd probably say we need to be looking at getting 7 to 10 points.
Yeah, I think you've answered that really well, mate, to be honest, because I agree. On paper, it does look like there should be some straightforward games. But like you say, when these teams have got new managers, we all know that new manager bounce is a thing. I think the only team to never get it was Carlisle when Mike Williamson came in. I think that's the only time I've never seen a new manager bounce. It always happens, so I'd be wary of them as well. So obviously, that's it for Halifax. We're going to move on to our FA Cup previews. We've got 2 games apiece to go through. I'll start because my game's the first one, which is Luton Forest Green. Luton, they're not doing as well as they would have expected. 1 win in their last 5. They've signed some good players in the summer. We've got George Saville from Millwall, good player. I know when I played EFL Fantasy last year, he used to get me loads of points. But you look at Luton, and even though they're not playing particularly well, Forest Green have, picked up a win after being in poor form as well. They do have players that will or could hurt them, but I just think the gulf in class might be too much in this one. I think Forest Green maybe you could argue they will want to focus on the league as well. I think, if they go through, they go through. It's a kind of a free hit for them. If they don't, if they go out, and they can just be like, right, we'll focus on trying to win the league and get promoted. But like I say, for Luton, it could be a good kind of stop the rot type situation for them, get a good result, maybe rack up a couple of goals and get back to winning ways. We'll see. Obviously, they've appointed Jack Wilshere as well as manager, so he'll be interesting to see how he does. Because I always talk on here as well about young hipster coaches. They always try and go for these young hipster coaches that want to play attractive football. So we'll see, because it'll be a kind of a match of the two, the young hipster coaches trying to play a nice football against each other. It'd be interesting. Wilshere shows my age though when I remember Wilshere and Savage both playing in the Premier League, not so long back. Well, it doesn't feel that long ago, but yeah. So I think that could be a really good game, to be fair, especially for a neutral. Obviously, when we do our shock or no shock, I'll tell you what I think might happen. But Luton, I think, look decent on paper. Like I said, they've obviously changed the manager as well, and we talk about new manager bounce potentially there. So that's my preview for that one. Louis, you're next.
Yeah, so I've got the lunchtime kickoff on Saturday, Chelmsford Braintree. This is a proper derby game, this one. Only 13 miles separate the two sides, and it's dripping with content. Angelo Harrop is the Chelmsford manager who took Braintree up from the National League South 2 seasons ago, having beaten Chelmsford in the playoff semi-final. So Chelmsford will want to get one back on their local rivals. Chelmsford are currently 14th in the National League South, average of 1 goal a game, and they're conceding 1.15 goals per game as well. But their squad is littered with experience. They've got Joe Grimwood, who won the National League with Barnet last year, Tom Latchley, who's made 150 appearances with Colchester in the Football League, Jack Barham, who scored 20 goals in the National League for Aldershot over the past 2 years, and then Lyle Taylor as well as their main man up front, who's been in good form, who obviously has played across the EFL with Wimbledon, Notts Forest, Charlton, loads of different sides there. So this game is a real intriguing one, and I'm glad the TV cameras have picked up on it. Obviously, Braintree aren't in great form at the moment, sitting 21st in the National League and struggling to find the back of the net. But yeah, I think this could be one to watch. I think this could be a really entertaining cup tie.
Yeah, I think so. I think obviously Craig, who's normally here with us, obviously close to home for him. He'll be going to the game in the away end. He'll be looking forward to that. So shout out to Craig. Mark, what was your game, mate?
We got Gainsborough facing Accrington. Gainsborough in the Northern Premier League. They're doing very well at the moment, and they've had an interesting qualifying round. They've had to beat the likes of Corby, Rushall, Dunstan, and then they had that very eye-catching win against Hartlepool at Hartlepool in the replay. It just showed how bad Hartlepool basically were, but you can't take away the fact that how good Gainsborough were on that night. They've got some standout players. Obviously, Declan Howe left them for Scunthorpe to go and pursue his full-time dream. But what do you do when you sell goals? You replace them with goals. And they've got Johnny Margetts, who was at Matlock and Kings Lynn. He might not be getting as many as what people think, but he is a player who will get you goals and get you a lot of goals once he gets going. Same as Javel Clark, another striker up front for Gainsborough. Again, they can score in the midfield, and I remember this fella from last season when Mac were in the MPL midfielder, Will Lancaster, very solid midfielder. And for those who can remember, particularly you Port Vale and York City fans, Adam Crooks in the back four as well. So there's a wealth of experience there, and I think if Gainsborough, particularly after that Hartlepool win at Hartlepool, Accrington better be careful because, well, we'll find out later, but ain't going to be easy for them.
Yeah, I mean, again, you've named some good players there. I know I previewed Gainsborough Hartlepool in our last FA Cup preview, and I think I called Gainsborough to win that as well. So, Luke, what was your first game, mate?
I think it was Brackley versus Notts County, if I were correct. Brackley at home. Potential for an upset. Brackley themselves have been very strong at home this season. Only 2 defeats. I think we know they're going to be very reliant on that to stay up. Quite known to be quite an industrial type of style, which is quite contrasting if I remember the way Notts County like to go about the way they play, particularly when I remember them from the National League. It's that very attractive possession-based style of football, and them being the away side at Brackley makes quite an interesting game. I think Brackley fans will be very close to the pitch, very close to the action, and should be quite an interesting one because of that contrasting styles. But Notts County themselves are on very good form in League Two. I think they're actually inside the playoffs at the moment and have really picked up as of late. But that should be a really interesting game, that particularly when you look at the contrast of the actual styles of the two sides.
Yeah, definitely, mate, definitely. And obviously, I'm just going to highlight here for the viewers and everything. Obviously, we're previewing the televised ties. Obviously makes sense because they're going to be on TV. There'll be more people watching them, and then we'll do our shock or no shock at the end. That's why we haven't told you what we think is going to happen at the end of our previews, just in case anyone was getting a bit confused there. Obviously, you mentioned there about Notts County as well. They've got ex-Carlisle player Matt Dennis up front for them. He's been firing them in this season. He was our top scorer last season, but to be fair, he did only score 6. So I mean, he scored more than that already this season, I think. So doesn't say much from last season. But yeah, Louis, what was your next game, mate?
So I've got one of the 3 o'clock kickoffs on Sunday. I've got Port Vale against Maldon and Tiptree. So Maldon and Tiptree, the lowest ranked side left in the competition. they started in the preliminary round, so they've won as many games as what a Premier League side would win to win the trophy. So they've had a long run already. They're currently sitting top of the Isthmian League Division 1 North, so that's step 4 of non-league. And there's a 5-level difference between the two sides, with Port Vale currently sitting 21st in League 1. Maldon Tiptree, they've lost once this season. They've won 10 out of their 12 games. They've got an average of 2.2 goals per game, and they've conceded an average of 0.7 goals per game. So lots of goal scoring and keeping them out at the other end. Despite the huge gulf between the two sides in the league, Maldon and Tiptree have got quite wealthy owners, and they've backed it up with a number of experienced heads. So you look at the Maldon Tiptree side that might come out on Sunday, and you might recognise a few of them. So you've got Elliot Justham, who is in goal for them, has had over 350 appearances for Dagenham and Redbridge in the National League. Tom Eastman has had buckets of EFL experience. He's had over 450 appearances for Colchester. Anthony Wordsworth has played for Wimbledon, Southend, Colchester, Ipswich, over 250 appearances in the Football League. And then when you look at their firepower up front, they've got Freddie Sears, who played in the Premier League with West Ham, played in the National League with Dagenham, played in League Two with Colchester. Macaulay Bonne has just signed for them, obviously got promoted from the National League with Leyton Orient about 10 years ago now, and has played across the EFL with the likes of Ipswich, Leyton Orient, Gillingham. And Gary Hooper played in the Premier League with Norwich and in the Champions League with Celtic. So some real experienced heads in there from Maldon and Tiptree. And yeah, it could be a very interesting cup tie again as well.
Crazy team.
I think it'd be worth watching that. If you're a neutral, I think it's worth watching that game just to spot the face in that Maldon and Tiptree team. I think there's going to be that many. Who's he play? Yeah, nostalgia. Who did he play for again? I'll definitely be watching that one.
Field day.
Yeah, I'll definitely be watching that one, mate. Definitely be watching that one. Mark, what was your second game?
Oh, the second game I had was South Shields versus Shrewsbury. Shrewsbury, well, when they struggle, they struggle. When they do well, they struggle. When they struggle, they do well. You just cannot figure them out, and I don't think even Shrewsbury fans have figured them out. But I got to watch South Shields up close on Saturday when they played Mac in the National League North. They were unbeaten in all competitions up until Saturday. And before I start, shout out to the South Shields fans I spoke to. So looking forward to seeing you in the new year when we come to your place. Magnificent crowd. And they've had the interest in qualifying rounds as well. They had to beat Gainsborough, Chorley. Now that was a very hard game for them to beat them, because Chorley doing very well in the league as well. And then they qualified against Spalding, good old Spalding, Lincolnshire's finest there. Well, they do have the players. They look a very rugged side, but they can play football, as we saw on Saturday. They've got two strikers, one Paul Blackett, who's banging in goals for fun. He might not look like your typical goal scorer, but looks can be very deceiving. And one from your neck of the woods, Daniel Son, Sedwin Scott. He didn't play against Mac on Saturday, but if he's fit and ready to go up front with Paul Blackett, there will be chaos in that Shrewsbury defence. I mean, they've got experience at the back with Robbie Tinkler, who they got from Gateshead. Just don't mention the pitch. And in the midfield, the one that caught my eye on Saturday, Dave Carson. He very industrious midfielder. And South Shields, I think you could be seeing why they are top of the league and why they were unbeaten for so long.
Yeah, you mentioned Kedwin Scott there. He was just unlucky up here. We had that many strikers. He just fell down the pecking order. It made sense, and he moved closer to home for himself, which, and I'm pleased to see it going well for him, because, like I say, it was just unlucky up here. Luke, what was your second game?
I think it was Eastleigh versus Walsall. I think, on paper as well, you look at Walsall at the moment, they're high and flying in League Two. They actually sit top of the league. But if you look at recent form for themselves, they're actually winless in the previous 5 games. And they're coming up against an Eastleigh side themselves who really got their act together under Scott Barlett now. In one defeat in 8, actually, for them. Of course, he came in after that first win against Southend, and the only defeat actually coming away to Bournemouth. So he's actually unbeaten as well at home as the new manager of Eastleigh. And for me, I'm quite intrigued with that appointment. I think Eastleigh could potentially be a bit of a dark horse in the second half of the season, particularly when you look at the squad on paper, that midfield has got a wealth of experience, a lot of quality. You know, even going forward, I know Paul McCallum himself hasn't been firing as maybe some people expected, but you know he's got the history of a very good record, and you don't lose that ability to score goals overnight. And you know maybe they could get the best out of him, but you know even the likes of Blair going forward, he's been pretty good this season since moving from Maidstone. When I've seen him, he looks like a threat, just not just in terms of his goals, but just his all-round play. So that's another one that could potentially be a bit of an upset, and it's certainly not going to be an easy game for Walsall, going away to an Eastleigh side that just had 1 defeat in 8 and 2 defeats at home all season.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I think it could be a good game. And then my last one is the Monday night game, which is Tamworth, Leyton, Orient. Again, if I'm Orient, I don't fancy this at all, to be honest. Tamworth in good form. I know they lost to Boston, which no one seen coming at the weekend. That was the first defeat in 12 games in all competitions. Solid at home normally. The Boston game did seem like an anomaly in there. We all talk about it all the time. The Tom Tonks long throw could cause absolute havoc again. Obviously, Tamworth had a good cup run last year. It came up against the Spurs team, took them to extra time, were robbed of a replay, in my opinion. You know, obviously, they do away with the replays, but, if in the old days they would have had one, had a nice trip to Spurs. But I think for me, Tamworth are still in good form. The Boston result won't knock them too much, I don't think. As far as Orient go, they've won 2 of the last 3 games, so they have picked up a little bit, but they did have a bit of a poor start, so they're 14th in League One, but they do have a lot of attacking talent. I looked up, they've got Don Ballard and Aaron Connolly scoring goals for them this season, and then I think if that with their movement, with their experience and their confidence with the goals, I'm thinking friend of the podcast Jazz is going to have a very busy day on his hands if Tamworth are going to get anything out of this. But I do think the reason this has maybe been picked as a good Monday night, obviously it's a London team going there, but when you just think, it looks to me like it's got upset written all over it. We're going to come into shock or no shock, but I think one of the main reasons this has been picked as a Monday night game is because they think it's going to be an upset. So we'll wait and see. Like I said to Luke before I went live, I'm always wrong, so who knows what anyways, but we'll go into that anyways. But that's it for the televised games previewed. We're going to go into shock or no shock now. So I'll just read random games out for us, and we'll just say whether we think it's going to be a shock or no shock. So first up, we've got Weston-super-Mare versus Aldershot. Louis?
This one's another intriguing tie. Weston-super-Mare second in the National League, conceded 1 goal at home all season. I think there's a shock on the cards here. I think Weston-super-Mare get through.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I thought shock as well when I seen it. Luke?
It's quite an interesting one, this, because you actually look at Aldershot themselves. I know they lost to Scunthorpe. They actually played really well in that game. Of course, they've got their new manager now. It's hard to say, to be honest. I know Aldershot are above them in the National League compared to National League South, but would it actually be a shock if Aldershot were defeated, considering where you see Weston-super-Mare at the moment? Really tough one. That I think there'll be a lot of goals. I'm going to go no shock in terms of Aldershot. So
yeah, I knew what you meant, mate. Mark?
I really wish this question had come up before John Coleman got appointed, because I think his experience, he knows what he's doing. He should have got to grips with Aldershot by now. So no shock, Aldershot to go through.
That was a bit of a mouthful for you there, Mark.
Certainly was, mate.
Next up was obviously one of the games I previewed, which was Luton Forest Green. Like I touched on, I just think the golfing class might be a little bit too much here, and I think it wouldn't be the worst thing for Forest Green's promotion hopes if they went out the cup here. So I'm going to go no shock. Luke?
Yeah, I'm going to go no shock either. I think Luton would have to play very, very poorly for Forest Green to get anything out of that game. If I'm honest, I don't think they've got any right to go to Luton, particularly with it being away. I can't see Forest Green getting anything there, but it should be quite an intriguing tie, particularly when you look at both managers at the moment.
Yeah, definitely, mate. Mark?
Hell has frozen over Mr. Robbie Savage. Shock. Forest Green to knock him out.
Wow. Mark back and Robbie Savage. It's the first time that's happened.
And I'm not drunk or on any influential drugs, I promise you, but I can just see this one coming.
Louis?
I think entertaining game, but no shock, I don't think.
Yeah. And then next up, we've got the game that obviously Mark previewed, which was Gainsborough Accrington. So, Mark, I'll come to you first.
I can honestly see a shock here too. Gainsborough will be full of confidence. They know what to do. And Accrington, I believe they only drew a Tranmere the other night, and they're still wavering in the usual position for them. But I quite fancy a Gainsborough win here, so shock.
Louis?
I can see Mark thinking. I just think it would be a close game, go to extra time, and I think Accrington scrape it through.
Luke?
I think very similar to Lewis, to be honest. It's like when we look at the Forest Green Luton game, I can't go on and say, oh yeah, Luton, there's too much of a gap in quality. When you look at this one, there's 3 leagues apart from each other. I think it'll be quite a close game. It's quite an awkward one, but I'm going to go for Accrington to scrape through.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Mark. I think there's potential shock here, but I do think it'll be close. Wouldn't surprise me if we're going all the way into extra time and everything, it goes all the way. But I don't know, I just got a feeling. I think Accrington as well, they like to focus on the league, trying to stay in the league like they do every year. They seem to just find a way to stay in League Two every year. I think, if they got knocked out the cup, it wouldn't be the end of the world for them. Next, we've got Wigan against Hemel Hempstead. I'll start. No shock for me. I think this looks, I'll probably regret saying this, but straightforward home win for me. If it was the other way around and Hemel Hempstead were at home, I'd maybe give it a bit of a rethink, but I'm going to go with no shock for this one. Louis?
I'm the opposite to you. I'm a big Lee Allison fan. Hemel Hempstead currently 4th in National League South, 1 defeat in 12, and Wigan have won 1 in their last 7. So I'm going shock on this one.
Good stuff. It'd be boring if we all agreed with each other, wouldn't it? It'd be boring. Mark?
Well, I'm going to go no shock, but it is going to take extra time to do it.
Yeah, again, I could see a few of these games going to extra time, to be honest. Luke?
I've got no shock every time. I feel like I'm being a bit boring now, but no, I'm going to go no shock. I think, once again, Wigan at home, League One. Hemel actually doing pretty well themselves, but like you've said, Dan, if it was the other way around and it was at Hemel, then I could easily see a shock in this one. But with Wigan being at home, I think they'll have a little bit too much for them. And Wigan, I don't think they'll have too much to play for in terms of going down this season. So a cup run for them will be something that they'd certainly be happy to take on. So, yeah, I'm going to go for a no shock.
Yeah, not to mention, obviously, Wigan have a good track record in the FA Cup as well. It seems to be a tournament that agrees with them. So, I mean, again, obviously that's previous years. This is a different year, but I always think that plays a part as well. Barnsley versus York next. Mark?
Oh, York fans, you're going to absolutely love me here. Shock. You're going to beat Barnsley, but in extra time. And Josh Stones will score the winner.
Right, okay. That's very precise. Very
There you
precise. Luke?
I'm due to say a no shock, aren't I? So, no, a shock, sorry. So I'm going to go for a shock. Barnsley themselves, a bit underwhelming as of late. They're mid-table in League One at the moment. York, I think they're a side for me that will only get better as the season goes on. I've seen enough signs to suggest that, they'll be well up there and in the title race come the end of the season. But I just feel it's written in the stars for them. They're bringing a large following away to Barnsley. It's a bit of a derby. York are really going to be up for this one because it's that potential for that occasion, that memory for them as supporters, with them taking such a large amount away from home. Barnsley's away end as well, and for Barnsley themselves, I know they're very, very ambitious about getting out of the league this season, and they've actually got a few games in hand to get back in the playoffs at least. And I think they'll be more focused on the league, and they may potentially be caught off guard here. And I think York could cause an upset in this one. I don't think there'll be a massive gap with these two sides, if I'm being honest, in terms of quality. Barnsley have a lot of players that have previously played in the National League, and I think York have got a few stars who've certainly played at League One level in the past. So I don't think it'd be that much as big of a shock as a lot of people may see for York to go there and get something.
Yeah, I think this could be another one that maybe goes extra time, goes all the way. But I think Barnsley just edge it for me, so I'll go no shock. But I'm with you. If York did win, it wouldn't be a massive shock to me, anyways, given the way York have been playing. Louis?
Yeah, Barnsley have already lost one Yorkshire derby this week to Rotherham, and I think they're going to lose another one. I'm going York.
Nice. I'll be Mr. Popular in the York Supporters Trust this week then. Next up, we've got Reading versus Carlisle. Mark?
Well, Reading have just appointed Liam Richardson, so they will be looking to impress. No shock, but extra time will be needed. We're going to see this a lot in this FA Cup first round, I think.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking similar to you, but I think Reading will just have too much. The new manager bounce. They've appointed the new manager at the worst time possible for Carlisle going there in the cup, to be honest. But again, similar like what I said about Forest Green in terms of the season, it's a bit of a free hit. Carlisle's priority this year is to get promoted. If we can have a good cup run, great. But if we don't, it's not the end of the world either. So it feels like a bit of a free hit. But I'm going to go no shock here. Luke?
I think this will go to pens, to be fair. I think it's quite an entertaining one. Carlisle themselves, like I've said, I think I'll be honest, I've been quite negative towards their start to the season, considering the position that Carlisle are currently in. But I've got a feeling they're going to go on a good run of form now, particularly with the additions of Con Clark and players coming back from injury. I think it'll go all the way. And you know what? Because we have to promote the National League, don't we? I'm going to go for Carlisle to win on penalties for this one. So you'll be liking me this week, Dan. Anyway, but yeah, Reading are 19th out in League One. They're not doing too well themselves. I know they've got a new manager, but Mark Hughes, he's got a lot of experience. I'm sure he'll have played against Reading before, and there'll be a few players in that Carlisle squad who, will be well aware of League One qualities. So yeah, I think Carlisle could potentially cause a bit of damage here.
I mean, I would say it was only 2 years ago we played them in League One, so
yeah.
it wasn't that long ago. But they did hammer us when we played them in League One as well. But then, to be fair, that season everybody hammered us, so it didn't make any difference. Louis?
Yeah, I think priorities are elsewhere for Carlisle. I say no shock on this one.
Yeah. Next, we've got Tamworth, Leyton Orient, which was the game that I previewed. I'm going to go shock in this one. I think Tamworth's home form. Wouldn't surprise me if it's scrappy 1-0. Like I said earlier, Tom Tonk's long throw goes in off someone's backside. 1-0 win into the next round. Get a bit of a big tie in the next round. And their cup run from last year, carries into this year. Louis?
I think no shock on this one. I think we usually see teams that have a good cup run previous season don't do that well the season after. And I think Leyton Orient will be clued on for this. So yeah, I'm going no shock.
Mark?
Going to go with a shock. Tamworth love a bit of FA Cup. Hayden Hollis, Tom Tonks, our good mate Jas Singh. And yeah, the Monday Night Blues are coming for Leyton Orient. Tamworth will win.
Luke?
I'm going to go for a shock once again. Tamworth at home, I feel it's always a very difficult place to go, that particularly for, so-called better opponents on paper. I feel just the whole squad and the way they play is built to be able to cause upsets. With once again that kind of industrial style of football, and they're doing very well in the National League. They've got a lot of momentum and a lot of experience as well in that side, and they'll make it very difficult for Leyton Orient. So I'm going to go for a Tamworth win.
Yeah. Next up, we've got Borehamwood Crawley. Louis?
This has got shock written all over it, I think. But to be fair, Crawley are on good form. Beat Bristol Rovers 4-0 the other day, so I think it'd be entertaining. But I think shock all over this one. I think Boreham Wood on real good form, and they'll want to bounce back from the Forest Green defeat.
Yeah, I agree. I think that out of all the games I looked at, this was one of the first ones I looked at, and I just thought that's a nailed-on shock. Luke?
Nailed on shock once again. Bournemouth doing very well in the National League. I don't think Crawley are doing too well either. Don't think either are too far away from each other either. And Bournemouth have got quite a good history themselves in the FA Cup. I remember a few years ago they played Everton, I believe, away from home at Goodison. And once again they could potentially do that this season, go on a bit of a cup run. And I think to be honest, they'll be kind of seen as favourites going into this one with them being in form and being at home as well. So I'm going to go for a Bournemouth win.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Mark?
Boreham Wood all the way. Luke Garrett's really got him firing. He's on fire. Yep, Crawley will be on fire as well. Boreham Wood to go through.
Yeah. Next up, we've got Sutton Telford. Louis,
boy.
I'll come to you first, mate, for obvious reasons. What are you expecting?
Extra time for this one. Telford won 6-0 at Darlington in the last round. They won 4-1 or 4-0 in the game after that. There will be goals in this game. I think it will go to extra time. And probably penalties, and then you can flip a coin. I don't want to say.
Well, you've seen it, everybody. The first fence sitting on our shock or no shock. Louis is refusing to answer, but I'm going to take that as he's going to say it's a shock, but he just doesn't want to say it out loud. I'm going to go a Sutton win, but extra time is needed. Mark?
A Sutton win and extra time will definitely be needed. And I'll even go so far as to say it'll be a Sutton win on penalties.
Luke?
I'm going to go Sutton, I think, for this one. So I'm going to go for a no shock Sutton in the National League. Like I've said, I feel within that squad there's a lot more than what we've seen so far this season. I think I'm kind of expecting them to improve, although they've had such a poor start to the season. I'm going to go for a Sutton win for this one, I think. Telford themselves, mid-table in the league below. So, I think Sutton will win this one.
Yeah, definitely, mate. Right, next we've got Chelmsford Braintree, which was obviously one of the games that Louis previewed. Depends how you view this. I'm going to give Craig a shout out here. To me, I don't even know if it's that much of a shock or a shock at all, to be honest, but I'm going Chelmsford win. I'm so potentially shocked given where the teams are in each league, but I don't think it's a shock to anybody. Louis?
Yeah, despite both sides not really finding the back of the net much this season, I think this could be a high-scoring game. I think the Derby atmosphere TV game, it could be really, really good. And I do think Chelmsford will win. Sorry, Craig.
Mark?
Yeah, apologies, Craig, but I think Chelmsford at home, particularly with Lyle Taylor there as well, if he's not on social media babbling on about something. Sorry, Craig, but Chelmsford are going to get through.
Luke?
Yeah, I think Chelmsford as well. I think Braintree struggling in the National League this season, as I think a lot of people expected. I think Chelmsford being at home, I think they'll win this one. So, Chelmsford to win.
Yeah. Next
Craig's
we've got...
never coming back on the podcast.
Well,
we're waving bye-bye to Craig now.
He did say when he messaged me earlier, if anyone picks Chelmsford to win, we're no longer friends. So,
oh well, but nice knowing you, Craig.
Yeah, have a nice life.
Oh, that's cruel.
Next up, we've got Spennymoor versus Barrow. Again, another game that I think could potentially be a bit of a shock. So I'm going to go shock for this one. Mark?
No shock here. I mean, Will Stanway, ex-Chester and Matt goalkeeper, he's taken his chance at Barrow, and they've got Charlie McCann in their midfield ranks, which is a quality signing. I'm a massive fan of Charlie McCann. No shock here. Barrow to go through.
Luke?
I think Spennymoor win this one, to be fair. Barrow at lower mid-table of League Two. Spennymoor themselves sitting in the playoffs of the National League North. I think Spennymoor win this one, particularly being at home once again. So, I'll go for Spennymoor to win.
Next up, we've got the mighty Macclesfield against Tottenham. Oh, sorry, Louis. I was moving on to the next one. Louis, what was yours?
0-0, extra time. Barrow go through.
That's why I left you, because I knew you were going to say 0-0. You see, I thought there's no point, but yeah, no. Sorry about that, Louis. Next, we've got the mighty Macclesfield. Mark, I'll come to you first, even though I've got a funny feeling I know what you're going to say.
Oh, I wonder which way this will go. No shot, Mac to go through.
Louis, I'll come to you now, so don't forget.
I've got Tottenham for this one. Sorry, Mark. They're doing really well at the moment, third in the National League South.
Hey, so wait.
Yeah.
I'm going Tottenham as well. Sorry, Mark. Luke?
Oh, Luke, you've got a job in a minute. If these two Philistines carry on.
I'm not just doing it for this reason, but I was going to go for Macclesfield being at home. Yeah, I think Macclesfield will win this one.
You've got the job. You two are fired. Go on, get out of here, will you? Goodness sake.
And if you think I only said that to wind Mark up, then you're absolutely right as well.
Yeah.
So
on,
right,
Reading.
so we've got a few more games, so we're just going to quickly plough through them. Literally just shock or no shock. We've got a few more games to go, and we'll get through these last ones. So we've got Halifax, Exeter. Luke?
I'm going to go for a shock. Not shock. Yeah, I'm going to go for a shock. Yeah, long way for Exeter to go. I think it's like 700 miles it's worked out there and back. Not doing too well in their league either. And yeah, I think Halifax will be able to do this one. And I'm not even being biased. Well, obviously I am, but I think it's hard to say. But if I want a Halifax fan, I wouldn't go for us to. I would go for us to win this one. I think when you look at the distance and the way Halifax are playing compared to Exeter.
Yeah, I agree. I've got Halifax to win as well. Louis?
Yeah, same here. Shock here. Halifax win.
Mark?
Full house, Halifax win, but extra time.
Next, we've got Slough against Altrincham. Mark's second favourite team to come to. We'll come to you first.
No manager at Altrincham. Slough to win.
Louis?
No shock. Slough conceded 11 in their last 3, so I think Altrincham will have a field day here.
Yeah, I've got no shock as well, but I think it might be close though. I think maybe extra time potentially. Luke?
Altrincham with Neil Gibson now as interim manager there. I'm going to actually go for no shock. I think Altrincham will get through that one. Of course, drew at Braintree, didn't they, at the weekend? And yeah, I think they'll get through this one. Yeah.
Next, we've got Wealdstone against Southend. Again, is it shock or no shock, really? I don't know. But I'm going to go for Southend. Southend are in good form, not conceding many goals. I know Wealdstone are in decent form as well, but I think Southend win this one. Louis?
Similar to my Carlisle thinking, I think Southend's priorities are elsewhere, so I'm going Wealdstone win.
Luke?
Yeah, I agree with Lewis. I think Southend will have priorities elsewhere. I think Wealdstone themselves, it's been a very difficult place to go this season to Wealdstone. And they've shown that they can come back like they did last week against Sutton. So I'm going to go for Wealdstone to win.
Yeah. Mark?
Southend have priorities in the league. This is why this is going to go to penalties and Southend will go through.
Next, we've got Grimsby at home to Ebbsfleet. I'm going to go no shock here. I know Grimsby have obviously had a cup run in the Carabao, came to an end abruptly, shall we say, to Brentford, but I still think at home, I think they'll have it too much for Ebbsfleet, so no shock for me. Mark?
Yeah, no shock here. Grimsby will always have the Manchester United game, but they should be too strong for Ebbsfleet, so Grimsby to go through 90 minutes.
Luke?
Yeah, I'm saying no shock either. Grimsby have got a good record, I think, in a lot of cup competitions, not just what we've seen this season. I know in the last couple of years they've had some good cup runs too. And Ebbsfleet, I don't think are going too well in the National League South. So, yeah, I'm going to go for no shock.
Louis?
I think extra time and no shock.
Yeah. Next, we've got Buxton against Chatham. Again, for me here, I'm just going to go home win. Buxton, I think, but again, could be extra time potentially. Luke?
Yeah, I'm going to go Buxton at home with home advantage. So, yeah, Buxton to win.
Mark?
Yeah, Buxton doing very well in the National League North. They're in the playoffs, got a lot of experience there. Full time as well. Buxton to win quite comfortably.
Louis?
This is the interesting tie for me. Chatham have got 1 defeat in 18 this season. So yeah, I think entertaining game, extra time, but I think Buxton just go through.
Yeah. Next, we've got St Albans trip to Burton. Next, shock or no shock, Louis?
No shock here.
Yeah, no shock from me as well. Mark?
Yeah, no shock for me here. And if they could leave that ridiculous drum that they've dressed up behind, then that would be great too. Oh, drums at football. Oh,
A special request from Mark there. Luke?
yeah.
Yeah, no shock for me either. I think Burton will get through.
Yeah. Brackley against Notts County. Obviously, we previewed this earlier. I think a few of us alluded to it as well. I'm going to go shock in this one. I think Brackley are good at home. Mark?
Yeah, well, not everybody alluded to it. There's going to be no shock. Brackley will play well, but Notts County will play just that little bit better.
Louis?
Yeah, I agree with Mark here. I think Notts County have too much for them. No shock.
Luke?
Difficult one. Like I said, contrasting styles of the two sides. Brackley, it's a difficult place to go. I don't think it'll be straightforward for Notts County. But I'm going to go for Notts County to win this one. I think they've just got, like I've said, a division above, a little bit too much quality. I think they'll find a way. So, yeah, no shock.
Next, we've got Blackpool against Scunthorpe. I think this one looks like a good game on paper, to be honest. Scunthorpe have been obviously doing well. We've been wax lyrical about them on here, but I think Blackpool maybe just win this one. I know we said about Carlisle, Forest Green, Southend. I think Scunthorpe's attention's elsewhere as well. So I'll go Blackpool. So I'll go no shock. Mark?
Shock on the cards. Scunthorpe to win in 90 minutes.
Louis?
Shock for me as well. I think Blackpool's priorities are elsewhere with fighting relegation at the moment.
Luke?
Yeah, Blackpool doing very poor, aren't they, at the moment in League One? New manager now, I do believe. Does that potentially affect things? But I do feel it's written in the stars for Scunthorpe. That away end down the side, they're going to take a large following, doing very well in our league. Yeah, I'm going to go for a shock, Scunthorpe to win.
I'm noticing a theme here. I keep going for one thing and you three keep going for something else. Next,
you catch on very quickly, my friend.
Cambridge versus Chester. Mark?
Chester, the wagons are starting to circle Callum McIntyre from a certain section of the fans. They had to put out a statement earlier on. Somebody tipped them for the full-time Altrincham job as well. So no shock here, Cambridge to go through.
Yeah, no shock from me as well. Louis?
Yeah, no shock from me as well. Cambridge will have too much.
Luke?
Yeah, no shock from me. I think Cambridge will have too much.
Next, we've got Wimbledon against Gateshead. No shock for me here. I think Gateshead, yeah, I don't know. They're so inconsistent. You just don't know what you're going to get from them. Louis?
Despite their away form being good, I don't think Gateshead will make it through. I think Wimbledon will have too much for them, so no shock.
Mark?
Yeah, no shock here. I mean, Gateshead, as you say, up and down like a bag of ferrets. But Wimbledon to go through, but in extra time.
Yeah, Luke?
I think Wimbledon will get through. Probably just a little bit too much for Gateshead themselves. I think when I look at Gateshead, the one thing that's lacking them, they do seem a little bit too nice. And when they come up against a side that doesn't really suit their play style, they do seem to struggle. They're very quite stubborn, I suppose, in the way they play. And if it's not going their way, they don't often change things up. So I think Wimbledon will win this one.
Yeah. Next, we've got South Shields against Shrewsbury. Obviously, we mentioned them earlier on. Mark?
There'll be a shock on the cards here, particularly if Sedwin Scott teams up with Paul Blackett. There's goals there. Shrewsbury, which Shrewsbury team will turn up, but it's not going to be the one that beats South Shields. There's a shock on the cards.
Yeah. Louis?
Yeah, I think this is one of the nailed-on shocks. I have South Shields to go through.
Yeah, shock for me as well. Luke?
Yeah, South Shields doing pretty well. I think they'll get through this one. Yeah, I'm going to go for South Shields to win.
Yeah. Next, we've got Port Vale versus Maldon and Tiptree. Louis?
No shock for me, but I think it would be a surprise in terms of what Maldon do. But yeah, no shock.
Yeah, no shock for me as well, but I think it could be quite an entertaining game and a good game for the neutral. Mark?
Well, Port Vale were absolutely atrocious against Stockport County on Monday night, but they're not playing Stockport County. No shock here, but extra time.
Mm-hmm. Luke?
Yeah, no shock for me. As Mark said, to be fair, they're playing against Stockport, but it's a bit of a difference in class of opposition, isn't it? So I think, I think Port Vale will get through this one.
Yeah, and then last, we've got Eastleigh against Walsall, which obviously was mentioned earlier on. Luke?
To be fair, I look at this one and I know Walsall are doing very well in League Two throughout the whole season, but as I mentioned earlier, they're not the best on form at the moment, and Eastleigh are yet to lose under the new manager at home, on very good form themselves, and I think will only get better. And I think Eastleigh will win this one.
Yeah, I'm going to go shock as well, actually. I think Walsall last season nearly went up out of League Two, bottled it a bit, I would argue. So this year I think they'll want to go one better and actually get promoted this year. So I think they've got other things on their mind, shall we say. Louis?
Yeah, I really rate Scott Bartlett, and as Luke said earlier, I think Eastleigh are one to watch in the second half of the season, so I'm going shock here.
Mark?
Yep, shock here as well. Eastleigh on penalties.
Yeah, and obviously that's it for Shock or No Shock. And that's it from us, obviously. Thank you to Luke for joining us, giving us your opinion on Halifax FA Cup. We'll see how our predictions go and everything like that. We'll keep an eye on that. But obviously, head over to Luke's podcast as well. Give him a follow on there as well. Does absolutely incredible content on there. Thanks to Louis and Mark for joining me as always. And don't forget to hit that like and subscribe as well. Keep our content coming. We've got some exciting guests lined up, new content to come, shorter format stuff to come as well. So keep your eyes peeled for that as well. But take care, everyone, and we'll see you soon.